Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. This is KLOS New and Approved, and I've got my friend, the amazing Steve Lukather from the band Toto. And
Amazing indeed.
what's going on? You are. I mean, listen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matt. You're a good pal and good friend. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm so glad we become friends over the years because I remember when I bought the first Toto album when I heard "Hold the Line" on the Air, and I was like, I gotta go out and buy that record. I fell in love with that riff, and
Indeed.
you
And you've
know.
been really great friends with my son, Trev, too, so I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, I love Trev. Your
And
son is amazing. You know what I mean? There's great talent in that family. I gotta say,
he's a
and
beautiful
but it's so great. And we got to do that Ed Asner autism.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's my charity. My son, my youngest son, Bodie's autistic. And that's his hang, man. It's the Asner Center for Autism. We raised a lot of money for that, and they bought a whole new wing of the place or whatever. And so that's my thing, and that's in the holidays. You try to give back a little bit. I've been very blessed with an amazing career and life, so it's not lost on me. I'm very grateful,
Yeah,
and you got to give back a little bit. It reminds you of this time of year. Always to me is about you know realizing how fortunate we are in a world that's kind of a mess. Those of us
absolutely.
able to feed our families and our faces and get on with life.
Yeah, so we have to be
So
grateful.
that's what Christmas is really all about. Everybody talks about what am I getting for Christmas, but I'm getting old, so I'm getting cheapy in my whole
Same
concept.
here. I'm more in the giving
I
side
want
of
a
things. I'm
Ferrari.
not
I want a Ferrari. It's like, no, I just want peace in my world, man. It's
exactly.
come a long way.
Yeah, man, and you've had an incredible journey too, Steve. Because I've been a fan of your playing for so long, and for me, I gotta say, we're obviously, the tour is starting August 24th. You guys are gonna be playing the Key Forum, and you're out on the road with your.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that, man. We packed this Hollywood Bowl this year. Next year we get to play the Forum. These are all my bucket list venues. You know what I mean? Before I die, I got to play. So it's all happening. So I'm really thrilled about this whole package that I came up with this whole idea. But go ahead and ask me anything.
Yeah, I think it's great too. Because I know what's so good is tour with Colin Hay, and you're really great friends with him, and I love him and Men at Work, and he was part of the Ed Asner benefit that we did
He's a dear
together.
friend. That's all these guys are my dear friends and people that I've worked with over the years. And the silliness of this yacht rock nonsense that they put this moniker on my entire session career. There's at least one of us on every single one of those records from 1975 to like 1995. So for them to put it up in a little box, like they figure out what that is, we just laugh. So I said, hey, I got an idea.
Yeah,
Why don't the three of us go on the road as a summer shed package and see how, let's put that out there and see what's going on. The sheds or the arenas that we're doing. And the overwhelming response was, yes, you guys got to do this. And our 2 day on sale is pretty impressive. And so this idea is going to fly. It's a fresh concept. I
it
mean,
really
us,
is.
we're headlining, and then it flip flops between Men at Work and Christopher, depending on what market it is and however they work that out. That's Live Nation, not me. And we're all great friends, so that
Yeah.
vibe. It's a fresh package. Most of the summers, the usual suspects in various combinations go on the road. Now, some of these bands have retired, and this whole thing, Jimmy Buffett's gone. God bless him, he was the sweetest guy ever.
Yeah.
There's a spot for like a summertime groove that's not, we're not a heavy metal band,
No.
and we're not as pussy as people think. They
Yeah.
don't know. You know what I mean? They just judge us on the singles they've heard, with the exception of Hold the Line. They're gonna go, oh, these guys don't rock, and say, yeah, man, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
But the package is fresh. It's like, okay, might as well take advantage of the silliness. The movie that came out on HBO was pretty funny. We're all in it.
Yeah.
And we kind of cartoon on the whole thing because, like, well, come on, man, look at this face. You think I don't laugh in the morning? I go, oh, you're still alive, really?
There's so many great stories that I love about with your history, Steve, that are just that getting to know you, which I love, and yeah, and the yacht rock moniker, it gives people a feeling to go back to a certain time. That's cool, but it's not really yacht rock. But I think came out of a comedy thing those guys put
Yeah, but the
together.
comedy thing when they were taking the piss out of all of us, and at first we're like, what? These cats, where are these guys at? Now, of course, it's popular. They want to jump on the bandwagon. Oh yeah, we always love the music. I go, you found our stuff in the dollar bin. Okay, fine, man. The used records are used
Yeah,
records.
and now of course, you know how many like even hip hop artists have sampled all these things you guys have done. You know what I mean? They've used it as a template for so many
Well, there's a
records.
bit, there's a bit in the film where, my friend Jay Graydon, legendary record producer, guitarist, played the solo on Peg, with Steely Dan. He was my mentor as a young session guy. Trev's godfather, him and Lenny Castro. We have two godfathers for my son. But anyway, him and I wrote "Turn Your Love Around" for
Y-
George Benson. They mentioned that, but they didn't put it all together. There's a lot of things that people don't realize how much we really are involved in music for those 20 years,
You,
all all
oh
across R&B, pop, rock, even harder edge stuff that I had to sign NDAs for
yeah.
that I can't talk about for big bands that had a little rough time playing the dumb shit in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, you played on so many records, Steven. For you, you grew up loving a lot of the guitar classics, but you also were into the jazz guys. You liked Al Di Meola, Return of Forever, John
Sure.
McLaughlin, Mahavishnu, and things like that. You listened to it all, right?
Yeah, I do, and I'm honored to say those guys are my friends now. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah. I,
a lot of my heroes. I got a chance to work with most of my heroes and befriended many of them. I've had I look back at it now because I look at all these credits. People send me stuff. Look what you did, and I'm like, I did all that. How did I find the time to
you
call
know, there's,
and be in a band? You know what I
yeah.
mean?
It's
So I
a
mean, it's been extraordinary. I mean, I kind of shake my head and go, "Wow, did I really pull this off?" Man, it's
It's
not about.
incredible, man, because it's cool. You guys sold 50 million records with Toto, and you and the Vaccaro brothers, and and just. I mean, it must have been a cool time
Our
to
high
hang out
school
in L.A.
band, man. It's just our high school band
From
was
Van
like
Nuys, right? Like around that area, was it? Yeah.
the guys that, sadly and tragically, we lost Jeff and Mike Porcaro. I mean, that's something you don't ever get over. And
Yep.
it's always been David Page and Jeff Porcaro's band. I'm just holding the candle, keeping the music
Yeah.
alive, enriching the families that benefit from this, and also, things are going well. I mean, if it wasn't going well, I wouldn't do this.
You
You
know,
know
I
what I mean?
right. But it's amazing too, and of course, Weezer. Rivers Cuomo loving the song. Everybody in that band loving the
Oh,
song.
I
Just
don't know about him. I don't know about him loving the song, man. I don't think that's the case at all. I think he did it to take the piss out of it and it blew up in his face. Now he's gonna play it every night.
yeah, because he's gonna
Oh,
play it every night. That's good, right?
No,
That's a great song.
I tried to reach out to this guy and be friendly, and it just got weird. I don't want to get into it, but peace and love. It was good for them, good for us. God
Yeah.
bless.
I think it's great that, speaking of which, you and Ringo, and you've been part of the All-Star band too. So, you got a great group of friends out here that
I
you
do,
got
man.
end
I'm
up
very
touring
blessed.
with, Hey, it's one of my favorite stories too. I mean, there's many, I love the fact that, one of your with, in one of your relationships, one of your first dates was, you were like, let me see how we'll know if we're a little compatible if we go to see Pink Flamingos with John Waters, which was
Oh,
a great.
I took Trev's mom to Pink Flamingos on our second date.
Which I love. That's like the coolest thing. It's like that's a real
No,
way to know. That's a game changer. You're going to know.
I'll put it to you this way: Trev almost wasn't because of it.
Now we're talking about
I would have had two less kids at this point.
yeah.
So,
Uh,
I mean, she took it in stride, but we were just poking around. I was young and insane, and I love these. I used to go see Eraserhead and Pink Flamingos. I used to take people to go see it, and we'd sneak beers in and stuff, and be kids. We were just, late teens, early 20s.
yeah, those movies were great. That was the kind of thing we were like, what's
Art stuff, then she was into what's the Rocky Horror Show.
yeah.
So she took me to that once, and I was just sitting there going like,
Yeah. And then you were
everyone all dressed up and the whole thing. I mean, I found it very amusing. I thought, wow, people get into it, man.
yeah. But
Nobody goes
The
on
John
TV.
Waters movies were really fun. I mean, they were funny, man, and they were
Yeah.
crazy. But I loved them. I mean, because and then of course he became mainstream, right? I mean, he broke through with like polyester and all those other things. But I just thought
And
that
then you
was
got
cool.
David Lynch, who became David Lynch. I got a
Yeah,
chance to
Eraserhead, right? I mean, I remember.
student film. I
Yeah,
mean, I love that.
yeah, same here. It was anything we would go and just try to find the wildest movies when we were kids.
That's what it
And
was. Back in high school, it was like sneaking into the drive-ins.
yeah, we used to throw. Yeah, the drive-ins. We used to throw our chairs over the wall, and then bring beers, like sneak beers
Oh
through
no,
if you
no,
can
no.
find
We
a
had
hole.
like 6 people. Because at this time, guys had like 57 Chevys and
I get
stuff
in the
like
back
that.
and you get in the trunk, right?
We had 4 people in the trunk with a fucking case of beer. You know what I mean?
It's the
Like, there you
best.
go.
Those
And,
are-
and, and we get like the Mickey's Big Mouth so we could pee in them and leave it around the car. So
which
we
is the best because
filled with our piss.
exactly, and you're all because we were all kind of underage too. We're like 16, 17, right?
Man, I mean, they're gonna come to get me, man, if you keep talking about this.
It's amazing. One of the other great stories too, Steve, is I've already for those I'm sure most people know, but you played with Michael Jackson on those records, and your riffs are so great. But I love the story about when he called you the first time, and you were kind of hungover from the night before,
This
and
was listen, this was like I had just done Quincy Jones' The Dude record.
yeah,
3 years old, and it was like 1981, man.
yeah,
82 maybe, and those are the wild years. You know what I mean?
oh
We were
yeah,
all stupid. All right.
yes,
I had probably just gone to bed, and I got the call at like 8 in the morning. Hi, this is Michael. I'm like, F off. Who the hell is this? And I hung up. And that continued back and forth a few times. Till the third time, I started grilling. Oh, yeah, you're really Michael Jackson. Then you must know, blah, blah, blah. And he started laughing. He's telling me all the right answers. But I go, I don't believe that Michael Jackson would call me on the phone. Dude, you know what day it is? You know what time it is? And I hung up on him. And a few hours later, Quincy's office called and said, yeah, that was really Michael. You should call him back.
it's so great.
So I
It-
called him back, and it picked right up. Got the bat phone, no in between. Hi. I go, hey man, it's Steve Lukather, but I'm really sorry. I didn't know. I thought somebody was putting me on, and I got to be honest with you, I didn't expect you to call me. He goes, oh, it happens all the time.
so great. That's such an incredible story. I love that.
Like I said, it's 100 years ago. He was very nice to me. I mean, we had I had fun in the studio with him and Quincy. Nothing. I didn't see nothing too weird. I mean, he was carrying Webster around, the actor,
Yeah,
carrying around like a ventriloquist dummy. That was the weirdest thing I saw.
yeah. But it was. I
Uh,
mean, look, it made great
This
records.
is a grown man, man. This is
Yeah.
like-
yeah, it's amazing looking back at all that.
Hey, it's Hollywood, and it was the early '80s, man. What can I say?
Yeah, I mean, and during that period too, like you played on so many different records. What was that like? Did you how many songs a day would you do sometimes, Steve?
Oh wow, usually about 4.
Yeah,
Stuff we've never heard before. No rehearsals, no demos. We'd show up, and whoever was there strummed their guitar, playing on the piano, their song, and we all listen, and we all have arranger ears. And there was hearing parts that aren't there to focus around the melody and the groove, and then we'd improve on. We'd add our stuff to it. They give us a pencil sketch, and at the end of in an hour or so, we had nice little painting. It was not quite finished, but pretty good. Overdubs finished, ideas, solos played. So you do that 4 times a day, you get a pretty good muscle at it. And
absolutely. And
there was a time in the early days where sometimes we get the same song in 3 times in 2 weeks, different artists. I
yeah,
go, I had a great part on the last album. I got to come up with something different for this.
yeah, exactly. And it would be because the song would be there for the publishers, right? And they would sometimes say, "Why don't you
Sometimes the
try
song
this
had to
one?"
be there. Yeah, I mean, there were people I really enjoyed working with. I mean, I can't really think of any really horrible.
Who were some of the coolest ones to work with? Like I know you work with Boss Skaggs, like people like
Well,
that.
yeah, Boz was, he gave me my first big break when I was 19 to join the band, on the Silk Degrees tour with Jeff and Steve Porcaro, and we had already done some demos. There was rumblings of a band being put together, and Sony offered us a deal. Well, I
Yeah,
actually offered Jeff and Dave a deal, and I got to be in the band too.
yeah.
So
But that's cool, though. I mean, it's Boss Skaggs' background, playing with like Steve Miller, in the Steve Miller band, and also there's that photo of those guys in Madison, Wisconsin, when they were a blues band. They were like kids,
Yeah, well,
It's really cool.
it's a weird thing. Is again going back to that movie. There's a scene in it where I was 20 years old, and talking like on our first album promotion tour. I look like I'm 12. My voice hadn't changed. A little teenage zit. Hey, man.
yeah,
Passage of time. At the time I thought, oh, I'm so grown up. I'm a studio guy. Look at we got a hit record. And
yeah,
I'm just a podcast little kid. I'm going, wow. Time. And then I look at myself in the mirror now and go, yeah, you have been doing this a while.
yeah. It's amazing. I looking back at all that, and there were a lot of things that were out at that time too. Like Sanford Townsend band, right? Like Smoke from a Distant Fire, which
I remember those guys when I was in a rehearsal band called the Alley in North Hollywood, where Lowell George and the Little Feat used to rehearse and all. We'd run into all these cats, but before when I was like 17, 18 years old.
yeah, that was a great song, Smoke from a
They
Distant
were,
Fire.
they were great guys too.
And they're really nice. I met one of them a couple of years ago, and he said, I don't think you know my band. I was in a band at this point. I said, try me. And I said, he said, Sanford Townsend band. I'm like, dude, I love Smoke from a Distant Fire. It's a great song. That single was amazing.
There, you probably knocked him out. He went, wow, you know the tune.
Oh, yeah, it was great. But, yeah, so this is, I mean, what is, when you think about it, Steve, you toured the world. I mean, you played with so many different artists, and you toured with Toto. What is one of your favorite parts of the world when you travel? Where's a place that you love to be besides home, of course? I mean, is there...
Well, I mean, my happy place is like Turks and Caicos out in the middle of the ocean somewhere. I mean, that's their vacation hang.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ringo turned me on to, and I was, I gotta find some place that's quiet, man. I don't want to go to one of these places where they have like the really loud EDM music by the pool and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not up for that either, but I'm with you on that.
He goes, I got your place, and it's sort of like a little treat that I give myself once a year after working so hard. So, but yeah, I mean, that's a happy place. My favorite place to tour? Well, okay. I mean, there's many. I mean, I love to tour everywhere, but there's places where, like, for example, this coming February, we sold out a stadium in Holland with just us and Chris opening for us.
That's great.
And so that's a big one for us. Okay, we've never done sold out like a hard ticket for just to see us. It's not a festival.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, and that was the place we had our very first hit record. And the first number one was in Holland.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. Yeah.
Around the world. But I mean, it's just, but there's so many places I love. It's hard for me to say ones that I don't love. I mean, I love the Asia, I love Japan, I love, I
Yeah.
love all of Europe. I mean, especially, stuff by the sea, southern Italy, southern France. I mean,
Yeah,
there's great places everywhere. I mean, the food, Germany's great. And I mean, I got friends all over the world after touring for almost 50 years.
and
Oh,
it's one of the greatest things about actually being in a band like who's had international hits and success where the people love you. I think it's also great, you and Ringo doing the All-Star band, you being music director, and
I'm actually Mark Rivera is, but I sort of like step in when he's not there. Mark's the sax player, Billy Joel, and was in Foreigner, and he's one of my dearest friends.
you tell me about that though.
Great,
because it's like Ringo is such a great guy. Richard is like, I remember it was funny because that night that I was, hosting with you guys, the Ed Asner thing, I see Ringo in different times, and he pulled up his vehicle and goes, "Hey Matt, what's up? What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm actually hosting with this thing tonight for Steve." He goes, "Oh great, good to see you." I just love that.
I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, So, but what was so great was, I just think I wanted to ask you about that because obviously being a music fan, guitar player. Obviously loving the Beatles and so many other things when you were a kid coming up. So doing a show like that when you're playing with like Felix Cavalier from the Rascals or, just a great group of people. What's it like for you?
Felix wasn't in the band when he's come out on the last song and sat in. But I mean, I never toured with him, although it was a thrill to meet him because like I said, I mean, I grew up playing, first with the Beatles and then everything that came along after that.
Yeah.
I watched Ed Sullivan's show in real time when I want to make that noise.
Yeah.
George.
Tell me too. What were some of those first for you? What were some of the first records that you bought like that at that period in the early?
Meet the Beatles. Meet the Beatles was my on switch to life. I saw them on the TV. I got a guitar and Meet the Beatles, like this cheap, crappy $5 guitar, which my parents made into a lamp that sits in my living room and gave it to me on my 21st birthday.
They made a lamp out of it? That's great. That's so cool.
After I had made it and, success of myself or whatever, and they thought that would be fun to do, so I kept it.
Were you as a kid doing the same thing, like, where you're dropping the needle on the record, kind of getting the parts right, you know what I mean? And
well, that came later after you learn your first folk guitar. So back then, I mean, look at what you can do. You can learn how to, the first thing you learn is Eruption by Eddie Van Halen, butchered on.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the starting point. I mean, I could play the solo in Gloria by them, which people didn't believe that I could do that at 8 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
And that put me in a band when I was 9 years old, and all these 12-year-old guys. So I was always playing with older guys. For some reason, I could hear stuff and and it just came to me, man. It's very weird. I can't explain it. One day I can play, one day I couldn't play, the next day I could. All of a sudden, the first position all came in. It's like one of those past life things. I must have known this somehow because nobody showed it to me.
That's amazing. And what kind of stuff were you doing?
Like everybody's gonna go like, how much weed are you smoking when that happens? Like, dude, I was like, 8 years old. Give me a break.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, right. I mean, the most important thing to you at that point was
I just wanted to make noise. I wanted to play in a band. I wanted an amplifier. I wanted it to be like those guys. And my dad patting me on the head, going like, dude, you got 1 billion chance, 1 in 1 billion. I go, I'm gonna be that guy, Dad. I was
yeah.
9 when I said that.
And you were, and you do,
Yeah.
which is great. So in those days too, when garage rock was happening, were you guys doing some of those kind of songs too,
Are you
like
kidding me?
Psychotic Reaction and
Real
Music
garage
Machine,
rock.
Talk, and all that?
I loved all that stuff. I had all those compilation records, like, hits of the 60s or whatever.
Yeah.
So many of my family would get it and give it to, I'll give it to him. He likes that rock music stuff. And I would just absorb everything that was coming at Mitch Ryder and the Detroit
Oh
Wheels.
man, those singles were great. Oh,
There were some great one hit, the Seeds,
yeah, Push and Do Hard, right? Yeah,
all the proto punk stuff, that was like, for me, it was great because I could play it.
yeah. Count Five, Psychotic Reaction, right? One of the greats too.
And I remember all those songs. They were great. That was great stuff. I like the edgier, more guitar stuff.
Yeah,
But I also loved the pop music at the time too, man.
pop music in that period of the '60s, and even it was amazing. I mean, the songs were so. I love those tracks.
The big top 40 radio, man. You could hear Purple Haze and would go right into What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong, which is always a tearjerker, man.
Yeah.
One of the greatest songs ever. And then it would go into Aretha Franklin and then Cream. And, it's like, that was what radio was all about. Now it's it's a different thing now.
Yeah, it's all subgenres, but back then that was exciting. You'd hear Deep Purple Hush into Marvin Gaye, heard it through the grapevine, or Supreme's Reflections.
Right, go back, go Google the top 40 of 1968 and 69, and every song on there is a classic that's being played today.
Yeah, it is. And what's amazing too is I go back because I'm I'm a total music nerd. I love all that stuff. So I'll go back and listen to because I grew up on the East Coast. I'll go listen. There's these actual all air checks of KHJ with a real Don Steele and all those guys.
Yeah, I remember that in my mom's car, man.
Yeah, from 1965, 66, 67, 68, and it's great.
I was cool because my mom was very young when she had me. She was 19, and so she was listening to the top 40 music at the time. That was, she was so it was always on in the kitchen.
Yeah,
radio always, and I just put my chair to it and just listen to the radio. I have a guitar and I try to just wig out what I was hearing.
Yeah, what was the first concert that you saw when you were younger? First couple, or the first one that really made an impression on you, maybe.
Three Dog Night live at the Forum.
Oh, you were at the Captured Live at the Forum? That's great.
Well, no, that's not a real live record. That was done in the studio.
Yeah, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, right. Yeah.
One of the first sessions I did was with Corey Wells. The irony of that, there was a solo album he was doing for A&M right after they had sort of like taken a hiatus or whatever.
Yeah.
And I did. That was one of the most memorable shows. They were so good. It was so awesome. It really connected. And then as I'm doing my first sessions as a guitar player and still a teenager, Corey Wells was one of the first people to hire me, along with Jay Graydon, legendary, like the guy I was telling you about.
That's so cool that Corey did. All those guys had great voices.
I
Denny Hutton, he actually had a party the other night. My girlfriend and I were going to go, and I've talked to him. Chuck Negron, I've talked to quite a bit. Corey was sadly the only guy I never got to meet.
He passed away, sadly, man.
I was bummed about that because I love them. Those records.
Well, I just think they were a great band. I mean, very sort of people don't give them enough credit. Those guys, Mike Allsup's a great guitar player.
Yeah.
Floyd,
Three Dog Night, and even like some of the grassroots stuff I love too. I love those records.
Yeah. All the Wrecking Crew guys played on all those records.
Yeah, they did. And those guys.
Those were great songs, though. I used to love the grassroots. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Everything from Let's Live for Today to Wait a Million Years. Those songs are great songs. I love them. And Eli's Coming by Three Dog Night and, Liar and One and those tracks.
Sometimes that comes up on my YouTube feed. I look at all kinds of things, classic, old, modern, whatever. Sometimes something comes up, I go, what's that? And they were like singing, playing live on TV. It sounded just like the record, man. There was no Pro Tools, man. These guys were doing it,
They really were, and they had to be able to play That's what's beautiful.
Play 3-part harmony, perfect. You know what I mean? It's like, don't tell me it can't be done.
Because it can. It absolutely can.
And what makes it now a little weird is that you don't have to be that good and you can sound really like you do.
Yeah. I like that. I like to hear artists that actually are performing, really doing it. And what's really
the thing is, it's like people say now, it's like, wow, they're really playing. It's like as if that's a weird. You want your doctor to say, you look up I hope you're doctoring well, man. Did you
right.
You know what you're doing
here?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just sound like some bitter old guy. I'm not. I laugh at it all. I go, but sometimes you go unplug everything, and let's see where everybody's really at.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that was cool when there was an MTV Unplugged, that you could actually see what was going on there, and people really had to play. And I got to say that's what I love that about. And speaking of which, now a lot of those midnight specials from the 70s are all available because of the 50-year delay. So you can go on there and see all these guys actually playing live and singing live. You know what I mean?
I played on that show a bunch of times as a teenager.
Did you? Tell me what you were on. Who you were playing with?
It's a long time ago, man. Nobody really super famous.
But that's still cool.
I remember I played with this girl, Libby Titus, who ended up being Donald Fagen's wife, who just passed away tragically. I'm very sorry to hear that.
Sorry to hear it, yeah.
Donald Steely Dan is like...
I love Steely Dan, by the way. And,
they're going to put us in the same... in the same breath as them, I'm good with that. That's fine.
Let me tell you, from Can't Buy a Thrill, Countdown Ecstasy, Pretzel Logic, Katie Lied, I love all those records. They're all great.
In high school, our high school band, Jeff Picard was in Steely Dan. He was doing the Katie Lied album when we were in high school.
Which is mind-blowing to me.
Playing some of the songs before the record came out, because we learned Jeff would have a cassette, and we'd learn some of this stuff, and we were basically a Steely Dan cover band in high school.
And you could do Dr. Wu and
down and play
Black Friday.
We did all that stuff.
Those records are phenomenal. I love those albums start to finish. To be honest with you, they're so important to me. And I know that Donald Fagen was originally from Kendall Park, New Jersey. He hated it though. He wanted to get out of there because I'm from Jersey. I grew up about a half hour where he was from. A little younger, obviously, because I was probably 11 or 10 when Can't Buy a Thrill came out. Man, that record's... Every one of those records are incredible, songwriting, playing, right?
Yeah, it's to me that's my go-to,
Yeah,
every era of it, and Donald's first solo album, Desert Island,
Yeah. Oh my God, Night Flight's amazing, and I just gotta say,
I love all that stuff. We're very influenced by them in terms of their production and all that.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Steve, I just love, I've always been able to just say that I love to listen to your stories, and, your son Trev is so amazing and talented, and one of my very close friends, and I love supporting him as well, so, and we hang out, and I just love, I love talking about the stories about...
Anytime, man. We'll hang anywhere, you'll see me.
Yeah, definitely, but I want to say, this tour is really exciting. I'm glad, it's so cool that you're going to be playing the Forum.
Yeah, man. That. I mean, in hometown at the Forum. I mean, I saw so many great shows there as a kid. I always said I want to headline the Forum before it's all done, and now here we are. We're doing it.
I'm so glad you're doing it. Do you remember which shows there? Before we say goodbye, I just want to know which were some of your favorites. You probably saw a ton.
Close to the Edge, yes.
Yeah, wow, that's great.
In the Round.
Yeah, see, I would have loved to have seen that because that was that run of albums of the Yes album. Fragile and Close to the Edge, those three are just masterpieces. I would have loved to have seen that tour.
Childhood right there.
I love those records. Now, they still sound great,
Well, they do.
Eddie Ofer did a great job of producing those records. They sound insane with Chris Squire and Steve Howe. Oh my God, I love those records.
Still holds up.
Yeah.
And then Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick. That was amazing.
Oh, yeah. That's another band who I love. And I've, interviewed Ian Anderson, a few years back for my HD Net show. And man, that's the first concert I saw was War Child when I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Wow.
In 75. And I loved it. It was Madison Square Garden. And, it was unbelievable because those records were great. And, I went on deep dives, even finding this stuff that was on Living in the Past here, but these were all old singles, and this stuff was great. They were such a cool, different band, and they don't
They
get
were the first art rock. Like when they walked on stage, the way they walked on stage, they were all. It was theatrical and so it was perfect. The sound,
yeah,
and there was all real. It was all. There was no
yeah.
that behind the curtain crap going on.
Yeah, and you know what I love too is like I remember vividly, him putting the one leg on the other leg while he's playing the flute. But then years later, he told me this great story. I said, so what was the thing that made you want to, play the flute? Because you brought it really. I mean, it was used in rock and roll, but you made it really a prominent instrument. Excuse me. And he goes, well, I realized at one point I wasn't going to ever be able to play like Clapton. So I walked into a music store and I saw a flute on the wall. I said, I'll have one of those. That's great.
A real story.
What a great story. But those records like benefit all the way through. I love all those records.
Yeah, me too, man.
And Thick as a Brick is a masterpiece. It really is.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of shows. I mean, the Forum was always a magical place for me. I saw so many great things there as a part.
Yeah.
I always wanted to do it on our own. And,
I'm so glad you are, because this is going to be great.
Oh, we're doing it with Men at Work and Christopher, but, at the same time, it's a big deal for us,
Yeah, and it's a perfect time for it, too. So listen, Steve, it was so great to talk to you here, man. And thanks for catching up. It's always great to see you, and talk to you. And love watching you play as always, so I'll be there. All right.
Well, absolutely. I insist upon it.
Yeah, we're going to be hanging, so it'll be great. So
all right, brother.
All right, you got
Have a great day.
Steve,
and thank you, everybody.
Yeah, Steve, thanks so much, and we really appreciate you stopping by and hanging out on the show. Thanks, Steve Lukather from Toto, everyone, right here on KLOS. I'm Matt Pinfield. Thanks so much for watching and listening.